Hello everyone, Jack here. Welcome back to another episode of Project Road Track Vehicle. Today we're gonna find out whether wheel spacers make your car faster on the racetrack. Now let's throw it back to Alex back in the lab so he can show you all about what these wheel spacers do for the science behind your car.
Wheel spacers. Obviously the factory suspension geometry just not good enough for you anymore. But what does a wheel spacer actually do, and how does it affect the car's overall handling? Well, first, let's talk about the pros of a wheel spacer. A wheel spacer effectively will increase your track width, which usually leads to more stability and less body roll in the corners. Also, wheel spacers actually help you to make sure that your wheel clears those hot boy BBK that you spend your hard-earned money on. But at the same time, wheel spacer unfortunately has some side effect on handling, because installing a spacer actually increases the distance between your wheel's contact patch to your suspension pickup points, which means the effective wheel rate for the set axle with the wheel spacer will become slightly softer, which means your car may actually pitch and roll a little bit more because the axle is softer. At the same time, because you actually increase the distance between the suspension steering axis and your tire contact patch, you effectively increased what we call a scrub radius on your steering axis. A longer scrub radius usually means you have a little more feedback on your steering wheel, but at the same time, it might induce more torque steer, and also sometimes the car might follow the imperfection on the road a little bit more. At the same time, having a large scrub radius with a lot of caster will induce a jacking moment when you turn the steering wheel, which has some side effect on the car's overall handling as well. And don't be that guy who blames bad wheel balance when you will decide to check out on the side of the highway. But how does everything mentioned above affect cars' lap time around a racetrack? I don't know. So let's give it back to Jackie and let's find out. As 90 rolls away. Yeah.
On the back too.
Yeah. Hella flush, bro.
All right, Alex just put the spacers on, and we're gonna go out there and see how with spacers, with 20 mil spacers front and rear, how that feels. Whoa, it does some weird things. It feels like, at least when I'm soloing, when I turn the wheel, it takes a little bit for the weight to get over there. You're like, oh, you know, it does one of these. I'm exaggerating slightly, but you know what I mean. Like when I turn in, it feels like, whoa, it takes a little longer to set. I have the results in my hand. With no spacer on the car baseline did a 1 minute 40.91. Pretty good.
Not bad, considering this is like slightly harder than last time.
Yeah, I think we went a little bit quicker than last time too. Yeah. But with a spacer, the car did 1 minute 40.71.
Yeah, 0.2. I don't think that's definitive.
That's hard to say. That's such a small margin that it might not be anything. So I think this test is
inconclusive.
But
did the balance of the car change at all with the spacer?
No, not really. I think only when I'm slaloming on the warm-up lap, it felt a little bit more rolling. But overall, in the corners and everything kind of felt very similar to how it was before.
Interesting.
Yeah, so 0.2 of a second improvement. It's really hard to say if it's the car, if it's the driver, if it's a gust of wind.
Yeah, it's kind of inconclusive on that one.
Yep.
But
what if
we want to try something a little bit more fun?
A little bit more edgy.
Yes.
A little bit more dangerous.
Because we know, track with, spring rate and wheel rate, everything. As we see, a lot of drift cars, they intend to run a lot of wider front track than rear track just to get that oversteer.
Formula cars too.
And also, yeah, some Formula car guys that was just testing out here said, yeah, they always try to run as wide on the front as possible just to get that front grip.
Yeah.
What if we only take out the rear and see if we can do some sick
plus 20
skins?
on the front,
yeah,
nothing on the rear.
Stock rear.
Oh, we
Dude, that thing has a baby Ferrari livery.
Yeah.
So I guess let's try that and
Let's do that.
see if the balance of the car changes at least.
Let's see if 20 mil only on the front will make the BRZ any quicker.
The skids.
Just drifts out of shot. So Alex, we're back from that last little front-only session.
Yep.
Would you like to guess the times? Even though I technically told him off camera already.
Was it faster?
It was faster.
Yeah.
Instead of 40.91 without spacer,
Yep.
40.71 with front and rear spacer, 40.36 with only front spacer.
Maths doesn't really check out because I was thinking if it's 2/10 faster for 20 mil, does that mean if we add like a 8-inch spacer, you're gonna be like
No,
2 seconds
no,
quicker?
I don't. I think at some point it stops working like that.
It just snaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. So, but I will say this: I don't think the spacers themselves actually fundamentally add or take away too much grip. There's too many variables. It probably add a minuscule amount of grip.
It kind of maybe just cancels out about, you know,
Yep. With
whatever
your-
the amount it
you
gains.
lose wheel rate,
Yeah,
you
but you lose it from the spring
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, scrub radius. There's a whole can of
Yeah.
worms we can get into
Yeah.
that we're probably not going to.
Yeah.
But I think what the basic version is, adding spacers and taking away spacers, I think it just fine tunes the handling balance of the car slightly.
Yeah, it doesn't really change like
The ultimate performance.
ultimate performance, but it might be a viable option for you to kind of fine tune the front and rear axle balance by like a few points percentage wise.
Yep. And I think because I'm a slightly more oversteer driver, it's more like I like my rear end to be more stable. I like my front to dance in and move the car around a little bit more.
Yeah.
This front being wider helps me more. And that's how I was able to extract a little bit more lap time.
Can you potentially say it just feels like you might be went to a very slightly softer front spring with the
Or like someone softened the front sway bar kind of a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of how we see this. So does wheel spacers make your car faster, Alex?
I don't think so.
No. But they can maybe help you drive more comfortably in the car.
It's a
feel better
viable
with the
kind
car.
of tuning option.
Yes.
If you
and
play
that
with it.
might lead to more lap time. So good conclusion.
Yeah.
Now let's send it back to the lab so we can go over some more video, data, and more Alex in the lab coat. We're back in the lab here at PhD, and we are going to now dissect our 3 laps from our RTV spacer test, Alex. The no spacer, the 20 millimeter spacer front and rear in the middle, and then you have your front only all the way on the right side of your screen, which should be directly below us. So yeah, overall, feels pretty similar, but we can watch.
Definitely like less kind of
dramatic
than the
very first test.
Yeah, but just look at it and see if we can notice any difference.
All right, rolling through the final corner and onto the front straight, which really isn't that straight in Autobahn. A little kink on the left. All of them start at the exact same time because your boy did the editing and very well. Hard on the brakes into turn 1, very tricky braking zone. Car always wants to push a little bit. I feel like in here, the car did feel very, very slightly more oversteery right here.
Yep.
As this is technically our take 3 and we have talked about it multiple times. But you can see here, we won't mention what happened to the first 2 takes, but right around here, the 15 millimeter only car.
20 millimeter.
Yeah, 20 mil.
Yeah,
only
you
car.
kind of pitch in, then you opens up immediately, while the other you're still all the way cranked.
And that's one of the things I
corner.
noticed. Between no spacer and all the spacers, front and rear, the balance of the car didn't actually shift that much. Whereas by only putting them on the front, it felt like the car was a little bit more lively. It felt like it would rotate a little bit easier. So could carry a little bit more speed, open the steering wheel a little easier, quicker. That gains you more exit speed. Now this turn 4
is where you completely fucked it up on the
base lap, on the baseline lap. I went a little wide and then all very sketchy over the curbs.
The other two laps fairly similar.
Fairly similar, yeah.
Yeah. The double right up coming up here.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Again, all three laps fairly understeery because this whole day was filmed in pretty hot conditions.
Yeah, it was like the stock was probably the coolest, and the front space only was probably
The
like
hottest.
4 or 5 degrees hotter easily.
Easily, if not 10.
Yeah, it was like 8:30, like 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock
11,
roughly.
12,
Yeah.
somewhere like that. Again, these three fairly similar.
Fairly similar, not much to kind of point out here.
Yeah, I feel like a very similar level of front grip. I did feel like we're starting to get to the limit of maybe the front tires of like these OEM tires.
They're PS4. They're
PS4.
they're doing their best.
Yeah, we're really getting our money's worth of these tires.
Yeah, but also like if you go back to this, you can kind of, I don't know if it's just like your input thing or the car, but it does look like it requires like slightly less kind of, you see,
you're
you
right.
have to crank a little bit more with the
yeah.
front rear spacer. I also did some just like rough guesstimation by adding 20 millimeter front and rear because of wheel rate difference. The back actually softens more than the front because the wheel rate, because where they mount the dampers and everything. If that makes sense. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right.
So effectively, even adding 20 millimeter front and rear because the wheel rate, axle, like the suspension geometry wise, you're actually, theoretically, it should be slightly more understeering.
That makes sense. Because the dampers are,
Correct.
the springs
It's
are
just a
slightly
wheel
more.
rate thing, right? I don't know if this is a good indication of that, but it kind of feels like just like on this corner particularly.
Yep.
Again, this is not scientific. It's not like perfectly controlled environment, but this is kind of one thing that you potentially look out to is even if you add the same amount of spacer, because the leverage ratio wise, so it might actually gains kind of different roll stiffness and everything, even with the same amount of spacer.
Very interesting. Good point. Now coming through into the final corner again. All three, again, fairly similar. I think I charged a little bit harder with the middle, with the all spacer lap.
This is like very minimal difference.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
So coming across the line now, 40.3, 40.7, and 40.9. Definitely not as dramatic as our last video.
No,
with the
and
camber.
then if you like we say the spacer and like all spacer and non-spacer kind of inconclusive. Part of the reason just because the turn 4 kind of mess it up a little bit more.
Big shenanigans.
Yeah, so that's why I say like if you take away like a 310s, it's about even. The only one that kind of made a little bit difference was only the front spacer.
Yep.
But also, let's look at the data, see what the data says. All right, so let's look at data. Red line is the front
fastest.
spacer only.
Yep.
Black line is OE, and the blue is in the 20 millimeter all the way around.
Yes.
Right?
We could take a look slightly at turn 1, min speed wise, turn 1. Is there a big difference on the braking? Not too much.
It's like half a mile an hour.
It's all pretty close
It's
here.
probably driver around.
Like it's very much driver dependent. And here I charge it slightly harder with the OEM with the no spacers.
Yeah, but you kind of lose it on the exit.
I definitely lost a little bit.
Yeah.
So that actually inflated the gap to just about a tenth. But the but with the no spacers, with the front only, I could get on the power slightly earlier and carry a little bit more speed. We're talking like half a mile an hour.
Yeah,
more.
but like the bottom, the delta might look dramatic, but even the whole scale is only only 2/10. Yeah,
0.2.
So it's
all the way leading up to now. This
about
is
the
turn
same.
4.
Yeah.
Right, turn 4.
So
5.
turn 4. So ignore the black line.
Well, the black line, you see, I carry
you're charging hard.
Speed.
Yeah, you're charging hard.
And then I lost it all on the exit.
Yep. But it still kind of evens out because with the front spacer, you kind of undercharge it, but you probably got on the throttle a little bit early, so you kind of gain the back and top speed.
So from your braking zone, from this to this, the gap actually didn't change that much. If anything, the black actually gained a tenth, which means my shenanigans
Which means you should drive harder. Charge a corner harder.
Yeah, but any more than that, I'm going to fly off.
Yeah.
But also because of it, I ended up like overslowing for the next lap.
The rhythm is not there.
Yeah, it just screwed me up.
Just ignore that.
This is the driver error.
Yeah.
I am not the Stig. Next we have the double right. Double right coming up. This minimum speed is kind of not that surprising. I think the red being slightly better, the front only being it rotated slightly quicker, get on throttle a little bit harder.
Solid 2 miles an hour faster
than
minimum.
Than the all the spacers,
Yep.
and a little bit faster still than the no spacer.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
And that's where I think the gap really opened up right here. You see that? And then,
It's only like a tenth.
yeah, by here is about half a second quicker
Yeah.
to the no spacer car,
Yep.
and 3/10 quicker than all the spacer car. Yeah, and then we can move on to the relatively, we like to call it the lower speed, the mechanical grip section. That heavy heavy braking into the right-hander,
Yep.
followed by the two slowest corner on the track.
Yeah, for first scans, these sector actually makes the data a little bit interesting, because if you just look at this corner, it looks like you pick up the throttle a little bit earlier than the other two configuration with the front spacer.
For sure, and you see, like with the no spacer car, I actually try to pick up throttle and then it washed slightly, so I had to back off the throttle again.
Yeah. This kind of feels like the front camber bolt case again, which is, you can mostly the time gain is not the corner speed, just like the fact that you'll be able to get on throttle just that slightly earlier.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then the next corner
is the two slowest.
This is
This is pretty even. At this point, I feel like there's not much balance involved in this point. This feels more like we're all limited by tire grip.
Yeah, but also if you look at the next corner, you see
so
how
you
had a little dip with the double spacer, front and rear spacer. Might be might be a hint for the car, just like slightly more on the steering side to kind of readjust.
I think so. I had
because you kind of got him basically at the exact same speed, right?
Yeah, because I turned him all in the same time.
But with the stock and the front spacer only, you basically didn't get off the throttle. But with the spacer,
even the black one, I had to dip off the throttle a little bit.
Like a tiny bit,
with
right?
all
But this is definitely like a half lift with the front and rear spacer.
Whereas the front only, you see, I could basically just jump on it and then just stayed on. That's why it was a little bit higher. Gain a little bit more exit speed.
So just like more kind of determination on the throttle type of deal, right? Right. Then the final chicane.
Yeah, final chicane.
Yeah.
And the final corner, where we could talk about slightly. So chicane, I actually overslowed with a front only spacer car.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. But got
compared
back
to
on
the
the
other two is actually almost identical, which is like, yeah.
So if you look at it like this, I think I lost a tenth.
You lost a tenth in the braking zone.
In the fastest lap, in the front only lap.
Yep.
Just by over braking very slightly.
Yep.
Final corner, fairly even between the
stock and the front spacer only, but
Yes.
it kind of feels like you slightly overcharged with the front.
Oh, I overcharged like crazy with a and that cost me on exit, which kind of evened out.
Yeah, you kind of late on throttle by half a second almost.
Yep. But pretty even. Very slightly higher minimum speed compared with a front spacer compared to no spacers, but fairly even like that. And at the end of the lap, gets us a gap of 3/10 and 5/10 to the other two. Obviously, a bit of driver error involved.
Yeah, the majority of the delta is from kind of 4-5 complex.
Yeah. Yep. That inflated it slightly.
Yep.
I think overall, the spacer is more meant from the data that we see here, right? It doesn't change the limit of the car. It doesn't make the car faster.
I still think it's kind of like a driver preference thing in terms of just like if you really not like say if you're trying the sway bar, if you just need that like a tiny bit of balance shift, just like because I know NASCAR does it like back then when they use the 5-lug. I think I remember reading somewhere. Somebody fact check me, but I remember reading somewhere. Sometimes NASCAR use wheel spacers to kind of fine tune the little bit of like if it's just like missing that like tiny little bit of balance. It's obvious that this is like a viable option, and if your class allows it, or if you just know.
Yeah, it doesn't. It will not make your car fundamentally faster.
No, but it's
like the camber did. Camber definitely made it quicker.
Yeah.
This is balance shift.
This is balance shift.
This is very small things that make the driver more and less confident.
Yeah.
And that's what potentially leads to lap times.
Yeah. So if you like say you're you maxed out on your sway bar, or you don't want to do a spring change.
You don't want to do a damper change.
Yeah, if you have, or this might be like a 1% to 2% there and there, here and there to kind of fine tune the balance. So that's kind of, I think that's what it is. Yeah. All right, but here's the video and the data for the wheel spacers.
And thank you all so much for watching this episode of Project RTV.
And come back and find out what we're testing next.
On the racetrack. Let's, one more thing. Track. Is it too loud? Find out whether these... Hello everyone, Jackie D here. Welcome back to... They're perfectly spread out. Improvement of 0.2.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That right there felt a little bit more rolling. That was quieter.